So today I'm going to be speaking about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And this is part of the GCSE AQA biology spec, but you can still follow it up even if you do Edexcel because it is similar content anyway. Okay, so let's begin with speaking about what do these terms actually even mean. What does prokaryotic and eukaryotic mean? So prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus. For example, bacterial cells, they do not have a nucleus. However, on the other hand, eukaryotic cells have a true nucleus. For example, animal cells, plant cells. So you just need to make sure you know these two definitions. You just need to make sure you know prokaryotic cells don't have a nucleus, but eukaryotic cells do have a true nucleus. Okay, so organisms that are made of eukaryotic cells are called eukaryotes. So for example, humans, us. Organisms that are prokaryotic or made of prokaryotic cells are called prokaryotes. And eukaryotes are often multicellular. So multi, if we just look at, this term multi means many. Eukaryotes are often made of many cells, whereas prokaryotes are often single cells. So single cell just means that they consist of only one cell. Unicellular. You could actually also say unicellular, like that. Right, let's move on. Okay, so animal cells. Here we have a typical animal cell. The only thing that is not labeled on this diagram, which I'm going to add, is ribosomes. So we have the nucleus in the middle. We have the cytoplasm, which is just pointing to the jelly, like the substance in the middle. Then we have the cell membrane, the outermost wall. Then we have some mitochondria, which have kind of like this inner fold. If I just draw a mitochondria, they have this inner fold like that. That's how they actually look zoomed in. And then we have the ribosomes, which are very small. So these are called organelles. So these subcellular structures, these components within the cells are called organelles. And there are 5 key organelles within animal cells that you need to know the function of and be able to spot it in the exam question. So the nucleus, it basically controls the activities that occur within the cell. It contains the DNA. Then the cytoplasm here is a jelly-like substance where most of the cell's reactions happen. Mitochondria is where aerobic respiration occurs. So remember, aerobic respiration is when we use glucose to release energy. Then the cell membrane, pretty obvious job, just let stuff in and out. And then the ribosomes is where protein synthesis occurs. So this is where proteins are made. So I'm going to move on to plant cells. Okay, so here we have a typical plant cell. So it has all of the components in the animal cell plus 3 extra things. So it has this cell wall, which is the outermost one. Then the cell membrane is this one. The cell wall has this substance called cellulose, and cellulose strengthens the cell. It makes sure it's turgid. The chloroplasts, which are these green bits here, they contain chlorophyll, which is a green pigment which absorbs light for photosynthesis. Then we have the vacuole, which is this big storage space which contains cell sap. Sap is just a liquidy substance of sugar. Okay, bacterial cells. If bacterial cells have no nucleus, remember they are prokaryotic cells. So let's have a look at a picture. As you can see, there's no nucleus, and because of that, the DNA is just a loop floating in the cytoplasm, or it can be in these small rings called plasmids. Bacteria do not contain chloroplasts or mitochondria, but they do have a cell wall, they have a cell membrane, and they have a cytoplasm. And some bacteria often have a flagella, which is just like this tail, which has hair-like structures, which helps the bacteria move and helps it to be mobile. So that is a bacterial cell. And remember, we said it is prokaryotic. So it has no nucleus. And because of that, the DNA is just floating in the cytoplasm. Right, let's have a look at some questions that can come up for this topic. And this usually comes up towards the beginning of a biology paper. Just make sure you know this topic. Okay, so name 3 features of plant cells that are not present, that are not present in bacterial cells. Okay, so 3 features of plant cells that bacterial cells don't have. So they don't have chloroplasts, they don't have vacuole, and they don't have nucleus. Yeah, that as well. Okay, compare an animal cell to a bacterial cell. This is a very good question. So first you can say a bacterial cell has a cell wall, but animal cell doesn't. Bacterial cell, animal cell has a nucleus, but bacterial cell doesn't. And you can just say an animal cell is eukaryotic cell, but a bacterial cell is a prokaryotic cell. Or you could also say bacterial cells contain plasmids, whereas animal cells don't. Right, let's have a look at the next question. So the function of mitochondria is to release energy because this is where aerobic respiration happens. Bacteria, sorry, often have something which helps bacteria move. So they have a flagella, okay, which contains hair-like structures to enable it to move. Plant cells contain a substance in their cell walls known as cellulose. So cellulose, it basically strengthens the plant cell. It just makes sure everything is contained within the cell. What organelle in a plant cell contains a green pigment known as chlorophyll? It's a chloroplast, yeah? So it's pretty easy to remember it because they both have the same prefix. Right, let's have a look at some exam questions then. So question 7, the image below shows some cells of the lining of the stomach. And they're asking us to name structures A and B. Okay, so A is pointing to the cell membrane. So A would be cell membrane. And then B is just pointing to the jelly-like substance, which is the cytoplasm. So that's kind of like the question that could come up. Right, let's have a look at another question. Right, so here they're asking us to label it. So remember the outermost wall is the cell wall. Then we have B is a cytoplasm. Oops. And then C is just pointing to our plasmids, which contain DNA because we know bacterial cells do not have a nucleus. Give one difference between the structure of the bacterial cell and an animal cell. We can just say bacterial cells contain plasmids, but animal cell doesn't. Make sure you say animal cell doesn't because you're comparing. Okay, let's have a look at these questions. So the diagrams show 4 types of cells, A, B, C, and D. Two of the cells are plant cells and 2 of them are animal cells. Which 2 of the cells are plant cells? So we need to look for 2 cells that have some features that have plant cells. So it's going to be C and D. Okay, the root hair cell and the plant cell because they both have a cell wall. These 2 don't. And then you can say they both have a cell wall. And that would be basically your answer. Have a cell wall. Okay, that's fine. So I hope you benefited from this video. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and share for more helpful videos like this. And yeah, that's basically it. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.